Hey, what's going on, guys? All in channel with another podcast. Again, we're continuing a series on my channel called Changing the Narrative. We've done two other podcasts dealing with this topic specifically. Of course, the first one we did was discussing Bethesda. The second one that we did was actually discussing Game Pass, and Game Pass being that big equalizer. Um, and then in this episode, we're actually going to talk about the gaming media. And again, this is preface this with saying that when we talk about changing the narrative, we're talking specifically about everything that's been going on over the last years when it comes to Xbox, where Xbox was a couple years ago as opposed to where they are now in 2021, and then how they've changed their narrative in the gaming media, with the gaming community, and amongst the console generation as a whole, especially going into this new next generation console that we're currently in. Again, happy to have my brother, P-Bot, the world's most powerful gamer. We're going to discuss a lot of things when it comes to the media, like where they stand, why are they changing all of a sudden, their blatant hypocrisy. And then in closing out, we're going to talk about why this is a good thing um, in specific terms. And we'll keep it kind of loose, like we always do on this podcast. And for those of you guys who jump in, you're more than welcome to comment in the stream. Again, this is new to my channel, trying to get this up and running. And but just consider this something that's just like two guys, me and Heba, just talking about all the stuff that's happening in the gaming community. So without further ado, Heba, please introduce yourself and just let's get it rolling.
Vaya, señora, señores. How are you, my brother? I'm back with my Hawaiian brother once again on a late night run for me, obviously, but kind of a good run for him in time differences. But as always, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be here to celebrate whatever it is we're talking about on the podcast. Because, like I said, my brother is always been there for me, and he deserves all the support. And if I have to make a little sacrifice by staying up a little late with him, is all worth it to me, no matter what, because he definitely pays it forward for me in many ways and has since the very beginning. So this is your boy Hebot. You can find me on YouTube as always under Hebot, of course, on Xbox Live and Nintendo Switch under Hebot 8, on the PlayStation under Alpha and Sky, and obviously on social media. You can find me on Twitter under Hebot Powerful Gamer and on Instagram under C underscore respect. And as always, with my brothers in the exile on Sunday nights, with my brother Sega Man on the Alpha on Saturday afternoons, with 100 on Sunday nights if he chooses me the link with Xbox Got No Games, and myself when I feel up to doing it because of my health or whatnot or my scheduling when I do We Got Next on my channel. And now obviously with my brother Sega forever. So hey, keep it at Xbox. Look at J Long already being silly. So yeah, like just here, guys. Hopefully, we'll get to talk a little bit about what's going on with this all of a sudden change of narrative in this media. That that's out of nowhere. Want to change their whole perspective and perception of Xbox, even though it's pretty much been the same. It's just more evident now, and so now it's something they gotta go with the flow kind of speak. So yeah, my brother, let's get it going. You let me know this what's on your mind.
No, I mean you put it perfectly, right? Hey, just a quick shout out. Hey, what's up, Jaylan? Um,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to send Jaylan the link? Can you get in here?
I don't even know if he's set up anymore. I have no idea.
Hey, Jay, man, if you're available, let me know.
Mhm. I know he's Florida time, but I don't know if
Yeah,
that's late
Florida
for
time.
him.
Yeah, I know it's kind of crazy. Yeah, but yeah, welcome, Jay Long, man. It's good to hear from you.
I think so.
Um, yeah, so the media, dude, and in fact, I'll just say this real quick. Um, what a difference, right? 1 year makes.
Mhm.
Because it
Mhm.
wasn't that
Mhm.
long ago, man. It was like it was just last year, dude, where people, especially the media, man, they were just so anti Xbox. They're so
Right.
anti Microsoft.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and in some sense they still are. Um, but we both know what's happening in the gaming community, right? We've talked about this on the last two podcasts we did.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
how Game Pass is changing, the narrative, that great equalizer. That the media was not all hyped about, right? The media kind of bought into that welfare pass type of mentality.
Mhm. Right. Mhm. Mhm.
And the sad thing about it is, the media is supposed to be the fourth estate, right?
Yes.
Um, they're supposed to be that checking, that that gatekeeper when it comes to topics, regardless if it's politics, local news,
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
talking about even if something is gaming, right? It's an industry. They're supposed to be the gatekeepers, right?
Right.
But it's
Mhm.
interesting that a lot of the people who are in the gaming media now, you can pretty much tell like what their favorite console is or how they game or what generation of gaming they came into, right? Just by
Right.
the way they conduct themselves, right? Let's just say
Mhm.
the bias is real.
Right. Right. Right.
So much so that the hypocrisy that you see now coming from the gaming media, is palpable, right? And it's this way because of the complete narrative change. Again, with Microsoft purchasing Bethesda last year, and then
Mhm.
Microsoft for the last 3-4 years building up Game Pass. I mean,
Right.
to the point where it just can't be ignored anymore. Again, we did the
Right.
podcast talking about the great equalizer, which is Game Pass, right?
Right. Right.
And the
Right.
moves that they've
Mhm.
made, which guys like me and you know about, and we've been
Right.
following. People on our side of the aisle, right, who understand Xbox, who are Xbox all in, Xbox strong,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
stuff that we talked about. In fact, I would say that we're more media savvy than the actual media was when it comes to games,
Right. 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 Mhm. Mhm. Because the
and that's why
messaging.
you see these. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, brother.
No, I was going to say because the messaging that we've been trying to deliver, right, all along, has been that Microsoft is not getting the credit they deserve because they're doing a lot more things that's just not looking as clear yet because they're in the building stages, right? But we saw it because we've seen this before in the past with other companies, right? And how it all went down. So we knew that it was just a matter of time before it was something that could not be ignored because it was going to be so evident and so blatant of the difference in the approach and how impactful it's going to be long term that you know we just kept rolling and just said listen, just watch, just watch, you're gonna see. And patience is very key, but that's one of the biggest reasons why I agree with what you're saying. Like we were saying this, but people were misinterpreting it as you're just being a fanboy. You're not accepting the truth that Microsoft is dying. That you're just being a fanboy, not really thinking like a gamer, or you were in denial when we know we were not because the numbers spoke for themselves. It's not just sales; it's numbers and profitability, which Microsoft was the only company that's been doing those numbers. Profit and gross is two different things. Yes, you can gross a certain type amount of money, but if there's not enough profit from that, it doesn't mean anything. And that's what we're starting to see now with the drastic changes with Sony. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, and I 100% agree. And again, this is what the media is supposed to be doing. Look, guys
Hmm.
like me and you, we're gamers first and foremost, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
when people accuse us of being Xbox fanboys, I
Hmm.
find it funny because as you can see, I'm Sega forever. So if there's anything that I fanboy for, it's always been Sega.
It's always been Sega. Right.
It's
Right.
always been
Hmm.
Sega. So it's more
Hmm.
apt to call me a Sega fanboy than it is a Microsoft fanboy. It's just that
Right.
right now Xbox is where I like to play, and I actually like what they provide us, their services, right? The type of
Hmm.
games that they have, um, and just the way that they present everything to us, not just as fans but as consumers.
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
And so when you have a gaming media, right, that doesn't do their job the way they're supposed to, um, who actually talk about the console war and as you say, the fanboyism and stuff like that, right? But they're also the ones that fan the flames of that kind of stuff by the way that they present either their information, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know exactly where you're going to get it. I'll answer and add to what you're saying because I know exactly what you're getting at. Yeah, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
oh, yeah, no, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
When you're saying and their information, meaning that although they're changing the narrative, they're still skewing the messaging by saying things that don't really add up. Like the example that they try to say that Sony games sell millions of copies when their highest selling game was basically Spider-Man, right? But we
Right,
know that during that Black Friday, just 2 months prior to the release of the game, it was bundled with PS4s for $200, right, or $200. But they add physical copies so that they can count them on the MPDs, right? Because if you
right,
give out a physical copy, you got to count it on the MPDs because it's physical. Because you can technically take that game to any store, trade, and get value for it because it's a physical copy of it. And
right.
after that, we didn't see it in none of the board, in none of the MPD charts until April because it went down to $40. Then it wasn't in the charts again until the weekend of E3, which was in June, because it went down for $20. Which at that point, yes, you're selling copies. You hit the $13 million mark, but it's all diminished returns. There's no profit in that. So their initial real profits was the 3.3 that they sold million in its initial release that month of September. But they try to make it seem like, oh no, they're selling all these millions and millions of units when it's not even a percentage based on the ratio of the console sales over 110 or 115 million units sold, right? I know exactly what you're talking about. Mhm.
And if you had an honest gaming media, they could point that kind of stuff out. Look, we're not journalists. We're not
Exactly.
journalists at
Right.
all. But
Right.
we are
Absolutely
old
not.
school gamers, man. We've been doing this for a long time, right?
Yep.
And to be
Absolutely.
perfectly honest with you, I don't even blame Sony for doing that. Sony's just doing what Sony's always done. Sony's
Right.
done this as long as I've known,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, they're the ones that came out with vaporware. They're the ones that came out with when
The
you have to buy
RMs, the
yeah,
RM on
the RM,
console 1st. Mm-hmm.
right? And they've always done this, so this is nothing new to us, right? Especially
Right.
since we're Sega guys, on top of being old school gamers. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then again, this is the point of having a media, at least an honest one.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, me and you, and you don't even have to do. I like we just discussed this before. Right? When I look at things, especially specifically from an analytical perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
When you look at the numbers, like you're saying, right? If you have 100 million consoles out in the open, out in the wild that people actually purchase, right?
Right. 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 Mm-hmm.
But your biggest selling titles don't break like 10% of what that number is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, like how you were telling me earlier. You were telling me earlier when we were talking offline about looking at how the numbers were on the sales initially, right? When they first release it,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? So as journalists, if we can do this, why can't they do that?
Right. Right. Well, I
And
mean,
and
there's reasons. Yeah. Right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
and from our perspective, like we're not doing it as wearing a hat for Xbox or being X audience, right? We're doing it just as gamers.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of stuff that comes with that as a gamer. Putting aside whatever you like, prefer Xbox or you prefer PlayStation or you prefer Nintendo, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You want that honesty because you want to have the ability to take in information that's good and make good choices. Because if you don't have that kind of information and you just buy into all the hype or the lies, right? It's only going to hurt you later on, especially if you're coming from a consumer perspective. Now, if you're coming from a fanboy perspective, you guys made your bed, you got to sleep in it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you basically allowed Sony, the medium, to tell you everything you wanted to hear, and nobody could tell you anything different. So that's your own problem. But for those people that are out there, they're trying to make conscious choices and stuff like that. This is
Yeah.
where and media actually hurts the industry.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Well, my brother, I don't know if you were done. Were you done? What
No,
you
no,
were
yeah,
going to say?
perfect.
Or no?
Yeah, just
Well,
yeah,
well,
segue.
again, we all know that the media started for gaming with actual solicitations of magazines in in stores, in their magazine stands, right? But
Right,
that is a dying, a dying medium because most kids today don't want to read, and most of that stuff uh, they can put available, digitally on a site where everyone has access to it, not just limited people that would buy it on those stands, right? But everyone and get their information. So everything has changed, obviously, because with time everything grows. So the media had to find a way to feed their sites and to feed it with revenue, right? And
right,
revenue is by getting the traffic so that the ads can run from their sponsors. So the more the ads run by more people viewing, the more they get money from these sponsors, right? Because everything is free to the
right.
public, but they get paid by the advertisements, right?
Yep,
So the more revenue they get, right? But they started to realize in 2013 and probably towards the tail end of 2012 when people were trying to kind of mocking Xbox about having a lot more Connect centric stuff that they were pushing, even though it was still the highest selling peripheral of all times, even though the Wii was still a big thing, even though Sony was pushing their motion sensor controllers with other
right.
games and things that they were doing, right? But of course, as always, they like to focus it more on what the way Microsoft was doing it because at the end of the day, Microsoft was success with those gimmicks more than other companies, except except we because they were actually selling consoles. They weren't just selling an add-on, right? But as an add-on, the most popular add-on of all time and most successful was the Connect. It sold 28 million units, right? And that is why they felt that they needed to capitalize on that and make it part of the experience with the next generation, which was Xbox One, and make an actual way better Connect with way better functionalities, with way better features, and that people that tried it and actually went and tried it with the Xbox One would actually see and feel the difference of how much more advanced and better the technology was in comparison to the add-on of the 360, right? But and remember that because a lot of people weren't happy with the 360 one because it wasn't really perfect. It was more about the curiosity, the nostalgia, like everything else when it first comes out. People want to try it. They want to see what it's all about. But they felt that it was the same thing, and a lot of people didn't really want to give it a second shot with the Xbox One, even though Microsoft clearly said it was leaps and bounds better, even to the technology of the camera, the resolution, the ability, the sensitivity, how much more you could do, how much more accurate it was, how you can record on streams at a higher quality, So they saw all that negativity, right? They saw what happened at E3 when Microsoft introduced that. They were going to try the DRM approach with the consoles and the games to help developers when other companies and distributors like GameStop, right, was stealing money from people, selling the games at you know $5 less than what it is from retail price when you bought the game today and bring it back the next day. You got only like $20 trading, and then they go resell it for 55, right? And the game originally cost 60, right?
The good old
So
days.
right, so Microsoft wanted to save and help preserve the developers so that they don't lose money. Because obviously free to play, the DLC model wasn't as prominent and big at that point. It was still in its infancy, right? So that's why it's become so much bigger during the generation because of the fact that that's how they make the extra revenue, right? You see companies like Activision making only on microtransactions over what, $3-4 billion just on microtransactions, right? So they
Yeah.
know now there's a market, and now they opened up, an animal and a beast that they want to control but can't because now they don't want to shy away from it because the market is more viable with casuals, not the hardcore. And the reason why that is because the casuals, right, are
Right.
basically blinded. They don't know the ins and outs. They don't know when they're really getting robbed. They don't know the differences of having consumer friendly options, right? Which is hence the reason why the media took it upon themselves to go with the narrative, right? Because their traffic mainly comes from the casuals because they see it's a gaming site. They want to get gaming information. There's not many out there. They go, well, I got to go see IGN. I got to go see GameSpot. I got to see Giant Bomb because this is gaming sites, and then they'll listen to what they say or all the misinformation they give them or however they want to skew it, and that brought traffic to them. And it was bringing a lot of traffic because it was negative Xbox, because all that hate that built up during the 360 generation, especially with the PlayStation fans, right? And a lot of the media applies that were PlayStation fans because they felt humiliated and kind of embarrassed during the PS3 era that all they wanted was revenge. And that's basically where it all came from. They wanted revenge against Microsoft, the brand, and they had a window that was open to them and they were going to take it. I remember when they were at, I think it was IGN, and when they did something of the showcase, they were, I think it was Colin Moriarty, right? Or one of those guys jumped on top of the table and they were screaming, yeah, we won, because of that so stupid shenanigan thing that they did with Yoshida when he said this is how we trade our games or we play our used games, making throwing those pop shots at Microsoft, even though Microsoft completely changed it right after the whole backlash or whatever. Listened to the people, and it never even happened. It never happened. The Xbox never launched with any type of DRM, mandatory, system implemented to it. And it was funny because throughout the generation, even when it was almost at an end, you still saw people that thought you couldn't play Xbox games because they only played because they were all DRM, right? And this
Right.
completely proves that the casual market only listens to the spewing negative and misinformation of online media, YouTube influencers that hate Xbox, that built their channels on doing that because they got a lot of traffic, a lot of subscribers, and a lot of revenue, and they saw what it was doing. So it was not only the Xbox haters, it was the PlayStation fanatics, the media, and then we had the Xbox fan base that were just too weak to stand up and fight for what they believed in because they felt it was too overwhelming. No, but but everybody keeps going against it, and it looks like Microsoft looks dumb, and we're gonna look stupid, and they weren't seeing the bigger picture. So that was like four different mediums, including the media, right? That made
Right.
it an uphill battle, right? That we were there in the trenches. Me, you, people like 100s, Sega Forever. Uh, I mean, Sega Man, rather. Even people like J Long, until he got tired of the ponies harassing him, and even people like, Kaleidoscope, right? Until they got tired of the ponies harassing them, because that's really what it was. They got tired of it because it got annoying. And it's understandable. Some people can handle it, some people can't. So, it's a shame, but the media now made their bed, right? Big time, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, since they see the shift change socially with the actual gaming community, right? With people that are gaming, that influencers on YouTube are now speaking out. And a lot of those guys that are speaking out were the normies, right? That we call the casuals, right? Because
Right.
they were not aware of the differences of consumer friendly features and consumer friendly value. But Microsoft has painted and put it to a point where there's no denying that the consumer friendly value is beyond anything we've ever seen, right?
Right.
So now those normies from the influencers on the YouTube scene are starting to speak out. So you're seeing even a lot of these guys be like, I'm sorry, I like PlayStation, but right now the only place I want to play and I see value is on Xbox because Sony's not doing what I need. They're messing up. I don't see the value. And so the media now is starting to see this shift. So the ones that are going to stay really hardcore, obviously, is going to be the fanatics and the Sony fans, right? But even some of the Sony fans are starting to recognize how they're getting outplayed by Microsoft, right? And then obviously those Xbox dudes that were weak, a lot of them now, are lying, playing a cap, saying, oh, we were this day one, we never strayed away when these are the same dudes that used to put videos saying Microsoft needs to do more games like this, like God of War, like Uncharted, like Spider-Man.
Right.
They need to do more triple A's, not realizing that Microsoft, first of all, they didn't have enough studios. Secondly, they were restructuring the company because they couldn't sit down and enjoy their laurels of success like Sony did. They had to figure out ways to keep Microsoft relevant and get out of that hole of the negative perception, which is what exactly Phil Spencer did with the team, right? Because he even said it that the team's atmosphere and the team's, um, you know, um, what I call it, what you call that,
Just focus. Yeah, the
the
focus.
their focus and even
Yeah.
their like their enthusiasm was really low. He said it. It was really low because of all the negativity because they really thought that people were going to embrace and enjoy what they were trying to bring to the table with Xbox One. And it backfired on them when they really thought and felt that they were doing something different, unique, which they were, that everybody was going to enjoy. But what they didn't realize is that the normies are the most dominant in gaming scene. So they're going to go where popularity is. They're followers, right? The same way they followed the Switch, but yet wanted to hit it on the Wii U when the Wii U is the better console as far as the game library and what it allowed you to do with backwards compatibility and preservation with the Wii, which you don't have in the Switch, right? Even though the gimmick of taking it on the go is cool, the idea is cool, but still, they jump on that bandwagon as well, right? Because that's what normies do. They just do things just like Marvel fans, just like new DC fans. They go watch these movies, know nothing about comics, never invested. They just go watch it and love the medium through the cinema because they see everybody else is praising it, right? And that's the biggest difference. So the media now knows this, they see this. So what are they doing? They're trying to shift away and being more truthful now with what they should have done from the very beginning with Microsoft because they know that if they don't start shifting, once all of those normies start to shift over and they see the biggest difference as the generation goes goes forward, if they don't do this in favor of Microsoft, they're going to lose followers, they're going to lose subscribers, they're going to lose viewership, they're going to lose revenue. And they know this. So that's why they're placating. But the bad thing is, because they've been so hypocritical all this time, it's making them look foolish and making them look sad. It's making them look really outright like they're a bunch of clowns in a circus because they didn't be genuine or weren't genuine from the very beginning. And now we can basically make fun of them and throw it in their face and they can't do nothing about it because we know the hypocrisy and we can point it out because we've seen it, we have receipts, and that's the beautiful thing about social media, which is also negative, that you can't really hide what you do. It's there forever, right? Once somebody takes a screenshot, it's over. And that is the reason, my friend and my brother, why the media now is saying, well, you know what? We got to do this because we got to stay with the times. And I'll be damned if we're not going to make no money. And they're just making it seem like as if it's been part of their practice, right? This entire time even though we know for a fact that it hasn't. So in a way, it's good because at least now they're looking like idiots and they can't do nothing about it. So they're getting what they deserve. But at the same time, it's almost like we don't really need you here because the media, like you said, is something we're supposed to entrust and have faith in, right? To giving the right messaging. Doesn't matter what console they prefer, doesn't matter what they play on. It's about being truthful about your messaging and what the real information is based off each company and console and whatever it is they're delivering. Um, and uh, they haven't done that. They haven't done that, and that is my take and my opinion, my brother, on what I see why they're doing this. I mean, you tell me, add something on, tell me if you agree, if you don't agree, or maybe add something that I missed because that's how I feel about it.
Well, I think the one of the things too that is noticeable, because when guys like me and you were growing up, right, we didn't have the internet like most of these people have. The information, the news cycle wasn't 24/7, right? The information
Mm-hmm.
that was put out there was kind of vetted through a lot of different sources because you actually had to like video games, right? Which it wasn't cool
Yeah.
back then to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there was all these little, just like when you're trying to purify water, right? And then you got to sift it through a filter. There's all these
Right.
levels
Mm-hmm.
that information would go through, and because we love gaming so much because we're gamers,
Where's the controller?
um, right? And it wasn't so huge, right? It's we always say this, right? It's just like gaming, like well, people will look at the industry and how much money it makes, and how big it is. But to me, gaming is more niche now than it ever was because you might have a lot of people in the gaming industry, whether on the business end or partaking, right, in the entertainment aspect of it. Um, but a lot of them are not gamers.
Right.
In fact, I
Right.
go as far as to
Mm-hmm.
say the majority of them are not gamers. For people to make a better example, to use a better example, it's just like the people, like you mentioned Marvel earlier. People who watch Marvel movies don't necessarily translate to people who buy the comics or read the comics, right? That's just two
Mm-hmm.
it's in the same wheelhouse, but it's two different mediums to enjoy the content. And to some aspect, that's what I think gaming is. I think gaming is a little bit more accessible because of the interaction you have, right? The
Yes.
experience you can have from it, whether you're a normie or whether you're hardcore. Um, but still, the actual hardcore base, the actual gamer base like that, to me has never really, it's grown, but it's never reached the levels that you would think it would be at, given that gaming is a $1 billion industry. I mean, when you have a company like Microsoft dropping
Seeing
7.2, 7.5 billion
you
on a
mean the growth?
studio purchase, right? I
You
mean,
mean the
it's
growth really? Are you saying that you mean the growth of gaming? You feel that it's amazing how it hasn't grown within the hardcore gaming community, being that's been around so long? Is that
well, I
true?
think because there's so many, there's the definition of a gamer has changed. Like for me, a gamer, what a gamer is, like when it comes to the media, right? One of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why we had reliable media back when we were growing up is like the information wasn't always out there. It wasn't about the clicks. It wasn't about the
Right.
animosity out online, right? It was not about that kind of stuff because the guys who actually reported on gaming actually were gamers. One of the
Right.
reasons why you
Right.
got
Right.
into it, got into that kind of stuff is maybe you're a person that liked to get as much information as possible, and then you would share it with other people, and that started you down a career to be a journalist in gaming,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the core, you might wear the title of a journalist, but at the core, you're still a gamer. So regardless of what the company is, like we're all multicultural owners, right? When we were coming up,
Right.
you
Right.
had all
Right.
the consoles because you just like to
You
play
weren't
games.
blinded. You weren't blinded by the bias or by what was going on as far as favoritism and things like that. Right. I got you.
And so that changed. That changed. So like I'm saying, what I'm saying is like it's just like now, right? I'm a huge Steeler fan, right? But when I was growing up, Steelers. I totally missed the '70s Steelers. Those great steel curtain and all that stuff. Because I was really young, even though I was a fan. And then I experienced them more through the '80s
Mm-hmm.
and '90s, which wasn't their best years, considering they had some great years, but I mean they weren't a Super Bowl caliber teams. or they never went to the Super Bowl until like 90, was it 93, 91, something like that. But they didn't start winning Super Bowls again until they got like Ben Roethlisberger, like in the 2000, right? And they become that Super Bowl. They had Super Bowl runs again, dude. But the interesting thing to
Right.
me um, was that the fan base was a certain way, and then when they got more popular, that fan base grew. But then they still like where I live right now, people like the Steelers maybe because somebody that's from Hawaii played on Steelers. But like if I was to sit down and have a long drawn out talk with them about Pittsburgh, run the ball, play defense, talk about some of the Hall of Famers, some of even the non Hall of Famers that should be in the Hall of Fame. Talk about Chuck Nolan, what he brought, talk about the history of the Steelers. Right? A lot of these guys won't be able to talk to me because they're not deep into it.
Right. Right.
Right. So
And it
that's what I'm saying now.
applies. And it
Yeah.
applies.
Right. So when I'm saying about gamers, there's a difference between the hardcore. Back when we were growing up, there was hardcore gamers. There were gamers and hardcore gamers, right? But we've moved so far
Right.
afield, man, that the gamers, the hardcore gamers, would be considered just regular gamers.
Right. Right. Mm. I
Like
got
so
you.
that's how far we've moved. And then right now, the industry, because it's a big money making industry. And look, there's a lot of parts to make this thing grow. I'm not saying that it isn't, and I'm not trying to down anybody who's just a normie or just wants to, like a gamer as we know them now isn't a gamer as we were back then. I'm not trying to say that. What I am trying to say is that a lot of times when you look at gaming as a whole, right, it looks huge. But then when you look at analytically breaking it down by the numbers, right, and you see
Right.
some of the moves that happen, like you're alluding to earlier, right, it tells a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Right.
Because, like I said, I mean, just think about it this way, dude. The media is so hypocritical, right? Um, a lot of the stuff that they've done over the last couple of years, especially with the gaming industry evolving, the media needed to be there to evolve with that gaming industry. Right? And the one
Yeah.
way and the only way that you can do this, and this is media across the board, whether it's like mainstream media, politics, economics, anything, social, political stuff going on, stuff that goes on overseas, right? You have to be unbiased. You can't be biased when you're doing that report. And the gaming media is very biased, right? And
Mm-hmm.
by being biased, and the industry changes, they can't give you number one a fair opinion or an honest opinion
Mm-hmm.
or a correct opinion, as we can see right now, because these guys have been so wrong
Yeah.
for so long, right? That they just weren't called on it until all these changes started happening.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, the biggest problem, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the biggest
No, no,
problem,
you're fine. Just yeah.
like what you were saying with like numbers and now the bias, the numbers thing, you're absolutely 1,000% correct. Can you connect that to the charge? It's not. See? Is that numbers really never matched the way that it did, let's say, like on most Nintendo consoles, right? Or even on the Sega Genesis and Master System and Super Nintendo and Nintendo. Those numbers they really matched, right? Because I think even in the PS2 era, the numbers didn't really match, even though that was their highest selling console. It was the same thing with PlayStation 1. If you looked at the ratio, it was about 4-1, right? I think it
Right,
was, where for each console they sold, they bought, whoever would buy it, they were buying 4 games at the point of purchase, right? Or they would buy maybe a total of 20 games a year, right? Let's just say more or less. Um, with the 360, the ratio was 1-8 for every console that was bought. There was 8 games being purchased with each console, based on the data and based on the numbers, and that was like really really big. So the 360's ratio was almost 1-1 as far as how many game softwares they were selling in comparison to the consoles itself. And I think that's why it was really easy for a lot of these developers, for Microsoft, for example, to get them on board because the developers were seeing the attach ratio. They were like saying, well, look, these games sell, and people are buying the console. They're buying at least 8 games, and we have a higher chance of them buying our game because we didn't have something structured like Game Pass the way it is now at that point. But with the PS5 and 4 now, yeah, granted, it's great that they have 112 or 115 million units, but the game ratio is, I think it's 1 for 1, right? For every console bought, they buy like one game or maybe two, right? So the software sales don't match. And you see that with the departure of Sony Japan Studios. They finally came out and admitted and showed the numbers that none of those games sold well and that it was making them no kind of money. So they made the decision, somebody like Jim Ryan, that's more business savvy, that wants to make money for the company, to cut the fat, which makes a lot of sense. And to be quite honest, as much as they made really unique games that were probably the better unique games that PlayStation as a company was offering on their console, you know, people would actually take a look at. As much as they were cool to see, they just weren't selling. People were not gravitating, and that was, like I've said before, like you said, that we say this many times before, that the biggest audience on PlayStation are normies. They're casuals, which casuals, not to say that they're not considered gamers, right? But the difference between a gamer that's a regular gamer and a hardcore gamer is a gamer plays games for what they have and what they offer, right? They don't judge them based on budgets. They don't judge them based on how pretty they look, the graphics. They don't base them on popularity. They don't base them on how many mocap actors are doing voiceovers on those games. You see what I'm trying to say? Hardcore gamers, we play games that are fun and that have great gameplay mechanics and great innovation, right? And fun factor. Everything else, whether it's music, graphics, actors, everything else is, for us. You get to the charts a little bit. For us, it's it's a bonus, right? But for a normie, which AKA would be considered casual, it's different. They buy what is always popular, what everybody else is playing. Hence, something like Fortnite, right? At the moment, PUBG, Minecraft, uh, Call of Duty, um, GTA, right? What everybody else in the world buys as far as the video game space. And if you look at the numbers, only those types of games are the ones that are doing millions and billions of dollars and are selling. I mean, GTA has sold like 130 million copies already of GTA 5, to the point where they act and feel like they don't even have a reason to do a new one because it just keeps selling and it still sells. It sells. It doesn't. Even Red Dead, that's new, that came out, doesn't sell in the numbers. It's never in the charts every month. But you go look at GTA 5, it's always in the charts, right? Every month, every single month, which is something unheard of. And this has been since the 360 era, right? And the PS3, which is crazy. It's almost been literally 15 years, almost, combined with last generation and PS3 and 360 generation. And the game's still going strong, right? So that's the definition of what a casual, which is a normie, buys, right? And that is why I say that that's proof that that is the major audience on Sony's side, because the ratio of sales is not there, right? There's a reason why that ratio of sales is not there. And then when they do have a successful sales in games, like let's say Uncharted, that sold close to 6 million copies, right? Even though by its very definition, based on the install, it's still very little, but it still sold well, right? Um, because it was a single player experience, kind of what we call one and done. The multiplayer really isn't as robust, so it doesn't keep your attention for too long, right? That game did fairly well for them. Same thing like Horizon, sold almost 9 million copies. So you start to realize is why they sold, because those were the games that the media push, and kept pushing. Oh, this is a great game. This is AAA, like Spider-Man, right? Like God of War, right? And they only have like a handful. It's always those big ones that look like movies. Everything else they never push, like The Last Guardian or Shadows of Colossus. It's only those, right, that they really push. Because you know even something like Bloodborne sold only 3 million, and that was worldwide numbers all together combined. And even the Order 1886 that came out earlier, that didn't do well at all. Even though it was a fairly decent game and had a lot of potential. It was one of their better games, to be quite honest. Um, so that in itself is the proof that the casual market is what moves PlayStation units, right? Um, and that's the biggest differential, the factor here. Because when you go and look at Microsoft's numbers, although they're not the leading platform and their consoles don't sell as much as the PlayStation, when you go look at the ratio of numbers, I think it's 1 to 5, right? There's for each console bought, there's 5 games being bought on Xbox One, right? And now with Game Pass, that that ratio and that awareness and that audience is growing because now they're saying to their customers, well, look, for just $10 a month, or if you're a new subscriber for just $1 a month for your very first month, and they give you a free month anyway every time you purchase a console, you can play over 300 titles at the very moment at no risk, at no extra cost, out of your pocket, day and date, even the exclusives. And then if you want to buy them, you can still buy them in our store for 20% off, or you can go to our store and buy the physical copy at your own leisure, whether you want to buy it on sale or at full price, right? But it gives the people that are going there to play a sense of security because it's way easier to make a decision on buying a game for $60 or in some cases 70, right? Because of the next generation upgrades. Way easier for a consumer to buy it when they have the freedom to play it on a console through the service day one without any risk because you know exactly what you're getting, right? But when you're doing that on a console that doesn't give you that freedom, that the only way you're able to play them is buying them at $70 day one, and the game doesn't really look too enticing. Like right now, Returnal, a lot of people like the way it looks, but it doesn't mean it's going to be a good game because the gameplay doesn't look correct. It looks kind of off, and they're not really sure if it's going to be a legitimately good game. They're hoping it is, and to be fair, the developer that's made from House Marquee has made other games. Although they've made nothing but smaller games, most of those games have been really decent indie games. Actually, some of the best have been on PlayStation, and that people have never really paid attention to, and they've been overlooked. Even before games like Flower, for example, or like Journey, in my personal opinion. They've had games like Matter Falls and Dead Nation or Alien Nation, that were much, much better games. Um, so, as far as the experience of how they make games, because most of the games based on gameplay before anything. This is their first AAA. I think that it's safe to say that they're probably based on the track record. It'll be a decent game, but still, because they've never done a game in AAA style, it's probably a hit or miss as well because they don't have that experience, right? So people are hoping it's good, but it's a risk they got to take because if the game is not good enough and it's priced at $70, it's going to create a divide. The people that are happy with it, and then the people that are angry with it, right? That feel cheated or feel like they stole money from them. And this is the beauty of what Game Pass has done. And I really think that's why the ratio of software on Xbox is really outshining everyone else and outdoing everyone else. Because people say, oh, yeah, but more games sells on the Switch. Yeah, they do. Because they're smaller indie games that were out in the 360 era that we had on 360 exclusively for all those years. And now they're bringing them to the Switch because you can take them on the go. So they sell them for like 10, 15, $20, $5, in some cases $1. So of course more games are selling there. That doesn't mean they're making more profit because they're not. Because they're selling them at bargain bin prices because they're older games. You see what I'm saying? With the exception of some here and there that they be bugging, they try to sell you for $60 and they're not nowhere near worth $60. But you get my point, right? So again, look at Sea of Thieves, a game that people thought it was a joke. That wasn't really a complete game at first, and it's grown and grown and grown. Now it has multiplayer, it has story mode, it has all types of stuff. And the game has over 20 million active users. Active meaning people that play it every day, not people that came in, subscribed, and then don't play it again. No, active meaning they play it every day, right? And also games like State of Decay, it had over 15 million people actively playing, right? Part two, because it created engagement, and that's what people don't understand. Engagement creates awareness, right? Awareness creates sales, right? And that's why it's working so beautifully for Xbox. And although people might want to downplay it, that is why the PSN network or PSN Now is not doing as well because it's older games that they put and they're not running really on dedicated servers. They have to be streamed for the exception of the PS4 games, right? And then whatever's on PS4 is stuff that people already went out and bought or that they own. So it's not bringing in new people to their platform, right? Now they put Eternal on PS4 and made it cross platform and on PS5 and made it day and date on PlayStation Now. I guarantee you that that service would grow, right? Would grow in that month probably by I would say 15%. I guarantee you they'll get at least a million point five subscribers just for that. Because now you're giving them a brand new game at no risk that they're curious to play, and now more people are going to take the chance to play it, and they're going to subscribe because it's a better value, right? It's easier in the pocket. You pay for $10, you get it, and they were just offering it for $1 just a month ago, right? And then you're like, yeah, let me try it, and if they like it, they'll go out and buy it, right? So that's what I see as far as why those numbers differentiate so much as far as that the analytics don't make sense. And you're absolutely right. They don't make sense. And I think it's because of what I told you. Uh, I could be wrong, but I think it's a very um, uh, logical and an opinion from me, right, that has a lot of merit in a lot of ways, if you look at the proof, right? And it's a knowledgeable opinion, right? With knowledge, right? It's not just something I'm trying to blow out my ass without explanation. Now, as far as the bias goes, it also comes down to the fact that most of the guys in the media now, right, that are a part of media, they're the guys that grew up on PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and those are the guys that only know one thing, and that's PlayStation. So these guys, in a lot of cases, never even gave Xbox a chance. I know a lot of these guys, they'll say things like, hey, I never even played um, I never even played, right, on Xbox before. And I'm like, are you serious? It almost sounds like it's not real. That's not even a possibility. It makes no sense. But it's true. A lot of them haven't even touched an Xbox and made the judgment that Xbox sucks or that it's garbage or that it's no good based on just the fact that they hear media say it, biased people, and haters, which is crazy to me because, again, it points out the difference between us, hardcore gamers, and the normies, regular casual gamers. A real hardcore gamer would never sway his decision on playing anything on any console, anywhere, at any time, based on popularity, hate, or what's popular at that point. We do it based on what we see, what the game genre is, and how we feel about those set games. And I think that's the biggest problem. Why you've seen so much bias within the media the last 20 years. Again, it started in the 360 era, because in the 360 era, when they started to embarrass PlayStation with PS3 and and all their shortcomings, Microsoft set an example, and they showed that Sony, that was looked at as the big behemoth, right, by the normies and a lot of people, they finally weren't unstoppable, right? They finally were the undisputed king of the road, right? The 360 was and still is the most dominant console of that generation, even though the Wii sold more, but the Wii died off. It was a fad. It didn't continue, and they didn't have good software sales, and that's what killed the Wii. The 360 though had good software sales, and yes, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, but the PS3 caught up and sold more than 360." Yes, it did, because one, they were out in more regions that Xbox didn't even have a chance, like Japan, where the Xbox only sold 57,000 units compared to 13 million PS3s, right? For example, and or was it 10 million, something like that. And it also was because Sony dropped the price of the PS3 from the 600 and 700 price point that they first launched it at, all the way down to 199.99 before the generation ended. And that's when a lot of people jumped in and bought it even faster because it was so dirt cheap. Even the Xbox Core wasn't 199; it was 299, and it didn't even come with a hard drive, and it was still selling more at that price. So that's very indicative of the situation, which they try to skew, like you said, the media, and those are the little details that they don't mention, that they don't explain, that they don't clarify. So yes, it caught up, but it caught up based on diminished returns, and they came out and said it. Sony said they lost over 4.5 or 4.6 billion dollars in the PlayStation 3 era with all the mistakes they had and all the problems that they did and the overpricing and all that stuff. And they did three different versions of that console to make it slimmer as the generation went, which that also costs money because it's R&D. So that's why they lost so much money. But that's where the part of the bias within the media, I think, stemmed from, where I think it grew from. A lot of these dudes, and if you go look at them now, that they've gone and done their own thing socially on YouTube, I'll tell you what their shows are. They, straight off the back, they're PlayStation centric, and that's the proof. Like somebody like uh, Colin Moriarty, right? Somebody like what's his name, Justin Legary. Not Justin Legary, the other guy. I forget his name.
Oh, I know you're talking about
Used to
that.
be with
Yeah.
they used to be with Colin, right? They were partners.
Right, right, right.
They both in their channel. You see their backgrounds, everything Sony, blue lights everywhere. T-shirts always Sony centric. It's always a Sony shirt or something, whatever. So they show you that they're biased, right? And these are the guys working for the IGNs, for the Kotakus, for the Giant Bomb, for the GameSpot, for the Eurogamers, for the Push Square Circle, which for crying out loud, when you go to a site that says Push Career Circle and you don't think it's biased, you must be dumb or slow, because in the title it shows you this is a he said, hey, these are the same sites that are doing the reviews for Xbox games on Metacritic, right? And then they say Metacritic is something that's reliable when it absolutely isn't, because it's an aggregated site. Anybody that's certified can go in there. It doesn't matter if they're biased or not, and put whatever scores they want. How many times have I seen scores for games like Crackdown that said zero on it? You can't score a game zero. There's no such thing as a game being zero. That's a lie. You see what I'm saying? So that's where I think you see why a lot of that media was biased, and it came from that. A lot of those dudes were PlayStation fans that grew up PlayStation. That's all they knew, and they never even touched an Xbox until they probably got those jobs where they had to sit down and play on an Xbox. I mean, for crying out loud, what was that site that said, "Oh, we don't know how to get to the settings"? Remember that? When all you had to do was, connect or Xbox go to settings, because you could do it right with the connect. So all those things, all those examples are very clear, make a very clear picture of why this bias has existed. And I think that's where it came from, brother.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because the bias is one thing, but the dishonesty is another. And when that dishonesty actually that hurts the industry, right? Because I look at some of the
Absolutely.
games that launched with the Xbox One. Now, going back, like you were saying about the 360 era, and I know the 360 gets this title of being the pro console. Now, it's definitely the shooter console. That's probably why the attachment rate was so high. The online component, of course. Um, I mean, the reason why I bought the first Xbox One was
Oh,
because of Halo.
yeah, but it had online. It had the Xbox arcades where we
Yeah,
were getting arcade games that we never got before,
right.
like The Simpsons, like X-Men, like Ninja Turtles. There was a lot of and the achievement was first introduced. The
Yeah,
avatar systems with the backgrounds that were, that were active, that was introduced. So many things, so many things. Obviously the online structure, but they had a lot of gems, a lot of different variations of games. Yeah, it was a shooter box, but it had so many other games, even the RPGs from the Japanese market. So many, like Infinite Undiscovery, Eternal Sonata, Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, Star Ocean, right? Um, just so many that we haven't really seen in a while since Xbox One and even now on the Series X, which is starting to actually grow when you're seeing these coming in. So I don't think it was for lack of genres, to be honest with you. And you're very right.
well,
It does hurt the industry, but these guys didn't see that it was hurting the industry. But
I
now,
guess the problem for me when it comes to the
they're,
media is just their inability to adapt. Right, the market again was changing back then. They're going towards the shooter.
right,
So,
right,
so
right.
anytime you hear anybody down the Xbox calling it the shooter box, there's a kernel of
Yeah.
honesty in there, right? It's because it was the more popular box because of shooters, and shooters was the ones that
Right.
dominated. You remember we talked about this. There was a time in Japan because we followed Japan closely. There was a time
Right.
there was this little rift going on with the developers in Japan because some of the big names in the that were with some of these big companies, they wanted to take a more Western bent because of the way the industry was going. Call of Duty was just destroying everything. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
for those of you guys who are new to gaming, just think of Fortnite. How big Fortnite was, and so that's what Call of Duty was. Call of Duty was making these numbers, and then Sega made this game that was based off of shoot like a shooter, but it had a Japanese touch to it. And so, but what ended up happening was it kind of, I think it was just a little bit too early, right? People kind of didn't gravitate toward the way that I think people thought it was, like people within the industry. And like
Hmm.
anything else,
Hmm.
the ebb and flow, right? Things change quickly. Um, but the media was never there to pick up on that kind of stuff. So when it comes to like the Bro console and stuff like that, I've told you this before. The original Bro console is the PlayStation. That is
Yeah.
the original Bro
Yeah.
console. And then
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
how infested the gaming media is now with a lot of these PlayStation guys, right, that are supposed to be unbiased journalists, but they're just PlayStation fanboys. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's really hurt the industry, in my opinion, right? And
Hmm.
we saw that firsthand because, as we both know, we were both excited about the Xbox One when it was announced. To me, the
Yeah.
Xbox One was
Yeah.
just a continuation of the Xbox 360. And for me, it's like
Yes.
Microsoft did the Xbox One that way because the Xbox 360 was so popular and did so well.
Yeah.
So why
And
would
did
you
so
change
well.
it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the only thing I will say that Xbox did and Microsoft did and Xbox in general, and I think they learned this from Sega, was the variety of the launch games.
Yes. But it was there. But it was
It was
there.
there.
It was
But
definitely
when
there.
but then because there was so much, like you said, animosity, there was hate. Look, a lot of the PlayStation guys felt wronged, right? Because they're brand gamers. Then this is how brand gaming came into play. This is what I use the term brand gaming because these guys they love the brand and they respect the brand more than they actually do the game. So that's why they're in
Right.
the boat that they're in now with a lot of this stuff is because they'll look the other way when Sony does anything. They won't call them out on it. And it's kind of funny to
Right.
see
Well, I
like the
mean,
media types, like, the gamers too, but the media types in general, like saying what can Sony do? What Sony has to change, Sony has to adapt. But for the last, up until this year, these guys have been singing a different tune.
right. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. It hurt the media because a lot of the awesome features and things that we got, they took away because of the negativity, right? A lot of it,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
snap features, like the snap feature, and now it's on Sony's PS5. like the Upload Studios and things of that nature, right? Just to give an example, or Connect, for example, which is crazy because, you know, now they're starting to realize how they heard it. Because now they see how Sony doesn't have a lot of launch games, even though when the PS4 launched, it didn't have no games. It only had Resogun, Knack, and Killzone. And Killzone was really not a full fledged game. You could tell it was rushed. It was very lackluster. Knack was like a game that was charged $60, and it should have been really a $20 game because even the sequel didn't feel like a $60 game, right? And it was co-op and stuff. And even so, and Resogun should have been like a $15 shooter that you bought on the arcade marketplace, right? So they
Right.
ran with that narrative, all the indies, because Microsoft restructured the online store on Xbox One because people didn't understand was that Xbox One, their store, whenever you did something on the Xbox or Live Arcade, you were not self-published. You had to get a publisher. So a lot of those games were launched with publishers, right? With the Xbox, with the Xbox One, right? They made it where they turned it where it's self-published, right? Where they wanted the developers to be able to publish it themselves, so they make more money themselves and help their games grow while they were making money, right? But because they changed it to this model, right? The paperwork, the analytics, the politics of how they have to get it certified to get it through to go to Xbox was a lot more tedious and it took a lot more time and consuming, right? And then they try to turn that around in the media and say, oh, the indie developers not happy on Xbox because they can't bring out their games. That's why they're putting them on PlayStation because there's so much stuff that is needed in order for them to get certified, in order to put it there. And then later we saw with more and more developers as they put them on Xbox that they said that wasn't hard at all. It was just a certification process. It took some time. You got to do it a certain way. And of course, with some games like Shovel Knight, for example, Microsoft did mandates where, okay, if you bring it to Xbox, can you add a little extra for the Xbox fans? Like, can you give a skin where you could play as Marcus or Master Chief? Which, to be honest, I felt is a fair assessment. I feel it was fair for them to ask for that, right? I don't think there was unfair. There was nothing unfair about that because that existed even back then. Remember when Beautiful Joe 1 and 2 came out only to PS2? They had Dante as a playable character. Remember that? Because
Yeah.
it was dedicated to their console. But when it came out to GameCube years later, right? I believe it was one of them came over. It didn't have it because it was something that was exclusive to identify the differences between the PlayStation version and the Nintendo version. I thought it was a fair thing for them to ask for. And you saw how the media skewed that around where, oh, they're not being friendly with the developers with the indie space, blah, blah, blah. And then we found out it was BS. Like we already knew, because changing something always takes time, right? And it always takes time to adapt. And since developers were never offered the opportunity to self-publish their games, obviously it was something new and something different. And obviously they needed the money to do it. Um, and that's something that being published is makes the steps a lot easier because your publisher takes all that responsibility and all you got to do is do what they tell you. And they do the analytics with Microsoft personally. And that's what people don't understand. That was the biggest change from Xbox Live Arcade to the ID at Xbox. That's why it's called ID at Xbox now. And they have somebody that runs it under Chris Charla that he's still been there. And he's done a fantastic job. We've seen a lot of games launch first on our platform or launch exclusively on our platform. And a lot of people didn't even fucking support them and didn't even pay attention. And they were great games. Something like Lifeless Planet. It was 3.5 years exclusive on Xbox and nobody paid attention to it. But then when it went to PlayStation because it was the leading platform, everybody wanted to talk about it. You see what I'm saying? Kind of like when Inside went to PlayStation, and it was first on Xbox, even though it wasn't as long, or something like Blair Witch, or something like The Turning Point, right? Or Soma, or like the way we had Super Time Force for almost 2 years, and then it went to PlayStation, or the way we had Max Curse of the Brotherhood exclusively for 3.5 years, and then when Press Play went on their own and took their IP because that was their original name, and they changed their name once they legalized all that and changed their name. They brought out Max to PS4, right? Because they held the IP and Microsoft let them keep it, even though they published it and paid for everything and the development and all that stuff. So that's where I feel it's the ignorance and the irresponsibility, like you said, that's hurt so much in the industry. But now they're seeing it with PlayStation because now the tables are turned, right? It's not as easy for them because now they don't have the same windows open, right? Now they don't have the same capital. Now they just can't buy off everybody, right? And make these deals. So now you see PlayStation trying to put games on PC. They shut down studios. You see they're trying to buy stakes in, Epic with their engine, with the Unreal Engine. You see them making deals with the MLB as being this developer internally, but yet still bringing on other consoles. You see them, doing things like trying to buy Crunchyroll and Funimation, or you see them trying to be, buy Evo so that they can squeeze play everybody and force them to play under their platform on Evo and not on PC because they were embarrassed when that happened with Street Fighter because it was only on PC and PS5 or PS4. The PS4 version kept crashing, so they started playing the rest of the tournament with the PC version. And they want to now try to squeeze themselves in a position where they're forcing people to play. You're going to play it on a platform. That's it. And now because they have better servers, because I believe they're running their servers with Microsoft under Azure, right? Now they can do that, right? But they're trying to do these little snarky little deals on the side like they've done before in the past. And people are taking it as, oh no, it's just that they're trying to, they're making big moves. No, they're just trying to keep themselves relevant and edging their way because they need money, right? They need money. Just like they sold all their movie rights for their movies coming out in the next 2 years to Netflix for $1 billion, right? These are moves that are showing you that they're doing it, right? Like they closed down SOE, which was their online division. Like they closed down the developers that did Drive Club and Motor Storm, right? All these things have been done because they're trying to make that money. So now their fan base and the media, they see that they don't have no wiggle room more to to skew it, right, and misinform people. So now they're caught between the brick wall and the stone because now they see the damage they created by being one-sided is going to hurt them long term as the generation goes forward if things don't change and get better for Sony. So in a way, they deserve it. I don't feel sympathy for that because it's like you said, they had a bigger responsibility, and that was to gaming the industry as a whole or the community, not to their personal feelings. You know.
No, I 100% agree. Hey, Mr. Kimo, welcome, brother.
Hey, Mr. Kimo, what's going on, brother? Nice to see you, like always.
It just blows my mind because looking back when the Xbox One launched, um, I told you that. I think I told you this offline when we were discussing this. Um,
Right.
when I watch some of these media guys when they talk about because they have Game Pass now, and because in
Mhm.
Game Pass you have a lot of the games that we've been enjoying for years.
Right.
So, so these guys are playing games like Rise, Son of Rome, right?
Right. Right.
And it's funny to me because I don't know, it's amazing like how forgetful, either on purpose or they're just that bad, how forgetful they are about some of the reviews they gave the earlier Xbox games, right?
Well, I
So now
remember
they're
when
getting
you
the chance. Oh, go ahead.
forever, really quick. I remember when you
Yeah.
said something to me, you know, a while back, and you were 100% right. You said games like Rise, Son of Rome, or even something like Quantum Break for sure, right? In
Or
the
like
era
Sunset
of
Overdrive. Yeah.
right, or like Sunset Overdrive, or even Recore to a certain extent, right?
Yeah,
In the
recall. Yeah,
era, in the era of the Saturn, of the PlayStation 1, of the Nintendo 64, of even OG Xbox, right? Even
right.
Sega Master System, all that time. In those eras, those were console sellers.
Yeah,
Those games would have sold consoles. But these people, because they were more concerned about the popularity, about being followed, right?
right.
Being disingenuous, right? Really played the cat mode, right? Where they were like, oh, it's not really that great. And then when they saw it years later again on Game Pass and played it and actually sat down and played it, right? They were like, man, this game is amazing. This is a really good game. This was a good
Well,
foundation to a new franchise. And
well,
I
here's
hope
the hurtful
Microsoft.
part though. Here's the hurtful part
Mm-hmm,
about this whole situation, right? And this is why these guys need
right.
to be held accountable, right? It's because they're playing it now and it's like, wow, this is a really great game. And then some of them are
Mm-hmm,
like, oh, is there a Rise Son of Rome 2? Right? And I'm sitting there listening and I'm like, no, there is no Rise Son of Rome 2.
right.
And there's no Rise
You
Son of
guys
Rome
killed that.
2 because of what? Yeah, because you guys killed it. You guys killed it
Mm-hmm,
with your biased reporting.
right,
Right? You
right.
know, there's consequences to a lot of the stuff that these people did. Like Quantum Break, right? Awesome game, right? Sunset Overdrive. Overdrive blows my mind because Insomniac did it, and it has the trappings of being a PlayStation game. Like if they put it on PlayStation today, it would fit right in because it's an
Right,
Insomniac game.
right.
Right? Now,
Because
now PlayStation for some,
it has a feel of like a Ratchet and Clank mixed with
yes,
Jet Set Radio Future.
yeah.
Right, right.
Back when PlayStation was fun, right? That's when they
Right
had
when they used
fun
to
games,
do those platformers like Jackson Dexter, like Tomba. Right, right,
right?
right, right.
So if like Microsoft just allowed Insomniac say, hey, you know, it's fun doing it here to give you IP, and they stuck it in PlayStation, dude, people would be buying that game and be playing it, and people would be saying, you know, this is one of the best games ever. Because to me, it's like Microsoft put that game on there to appease all the fans, you know, and of course to appeal to people
Right,
that normally wouldn't play Xbox, right? And that's why you got the Rise Son of Rome's, and that's why you got the Titanfalls,
right,
and
right.
that's why you got the Sunset Overdrives
Right, and the Killer Instincts and the
and the
Maxes
Dead. What's the zombie one?
and the local cycles and the D4s
Oh,
and and the
yeah,
Crimson
Local Cycle.
Dragons and
Right.
the Max Curse of the Brother. Right, absolutely. They were trying
And they
to
had it across the board.
they were trying to capture the audiences that were appealing to like Nintendo and the audience that would appeal to Sony guys. They were really trying to bring every type of gamers that those consoles appeal to onto the Xbox ecosystem. They weren't trying to take away their fans. No, they were just trying to
No,
tell
they're
them, hey,
just trying to
listen,
build on it.
right? They were like, listen, hey,
Yeah.
you guys can come over here and enjoy some gaming too, and play over here if you want. You get what I'm saying? And that's the biggest misconception too, because a lot of people think that when a company does a move, it's to just undercut the other one because that's what Sony has done in a lot of cases. Same as Nintendo. But when it comes to Microsoft, they really just kind of want to invite you. So, okay, if you want to play on your PlayStation, that's fine. But we want to give you a reason that you want to play on an Xbox also. You get what I'm trying to say? They kind of
Yeah.
want, and they don't, and they feel comfortable being that second console of choice. If that makes any sense, you get what I'm saying? They just want you to play on Xbox and to have a fun time doing it. They don't care if that's your preferred platform. And they've proven that with Game Pass, let you play it on PC, let you play it on a tablet or on your laptop. You know what I'm saying? They've proven that. And it's sad because, like you said, people don't even see that. They think it's about, oh no, they're just trying to convince you, even though maybe it is to a certain extent. But I don't think that's their approach and mindset. I think more mainly their mindset is we don't care if you play there on PlayStation or Nintendo. We want you to realize that if you come play on Xbox, you're going to have a great time too. And we're worth your investment as well and your time. That's what I think their focus and their mindset really is. You know what I mean?
I think the only mistake Xbox made or Microsoft made in Xbox in the Xbox One transitioning from Xbox 360 because again, you know, that was a long cycle for the lifespan of a console. The 360 what was like 10 years or so. I think it was 10 years for the 360. But the one mistake that I saw that Microsoft did is they didn't realize that a lot of the fans they have weren't true Xbox fans. In fact, I'll even question today what a true Xbox fan is. You know what I'm saying? Um, and
Give
that's
me,
the
give me the
only
wire,
thing that
bro.
I saw.
Give me the wire.
And that's the
Yeah, I'm
only thing I
listening.
saw that they did was that I think they overestimated their appeal to the market. A lot of people bought the 360, a lot of people played the 360, but that doesn't automatically um, translate to actually having loyal fans.
Right.
And
No,
that's the only thing I'll say
disconnected.
that they.
Right. I'm listening to you, Second Front. Go ahead.
And then moving forward, right? Again, because of that media bias and stuff like that, we're never going to get some of these. You know how many studios have closed down because of bad information,
Yeah,
bad reporting. And it's
absolutely.
look, I'm not putting the blame totally on the media, right? I mean, but I believe, in my opinion, they share a portion of it, right? Because they
Okay.
help flame the fans of the console war, right? The media changed; it became more online, right? Like you were saying earlier, print media doesn't hold the same type of, but it doesn't hold the same type of attention for a lot of people because information is so instantaneous now, right? So it is a sign of the
Yes.
time. But at the same time, just because the print's not there, the quality needs to be, regardless if it's in print or online. And then these guys have basically painted themselves into a corner. I'm talking about the media specifically because they've been loose, and free with the way they've been doing their reporting, and you just
Right.
can't trust it. Right? It's the same thing that happens with mainstream media as well. Gaming media is no different, right? And of course, again, being biased and presenting the facts askew, right? And actually choosing a side, and flaming the console war. There's a lot of people that got hurt by that, and by a lot of people, I'm talking about the people who actually make the games.
Right. And it's
Right?
funny because to add to what you're saying already, the media always is like, oh, we don't believe in console wars or this and that. But the very essence of what they did, hating and throwing so much shade at Xbox, is the very definition of console warring. But then
Yeah.
when you would do it on the Xbox side, when we were really calling out BS and it's not really console warring, we were being toxic. We were the problem.
Yeah.
We
They
were the
shift the blame.
you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Which was the most asinine and most weirdest thing ever. I'm like, what are you
Well, look,
talking about?
that's
Go
why we
ahead.
lost so many. That's why we lost so many brothers in this war, man. That's why a lot of these guys fell to the wayside because it's hard, dude. It's hard to take that. Of course, me and you coming from the old school, when being a nerd, people used to actually pick on you, dude. People used to beat you up, or at least beat me up when I was younger, right? I mean, it was
Right.
just not cool to be. You're picked on. Everybody would always question what you're doing.
Well,
Oh, don't play
right.
games.
It
It's
was
a
it
waste
was
of time.
part of growing up. Right. It was part of growing
Right?
up. But that's how you became stronger and became harder,
Yeah,
right? Because you realize, listen, you got to fight back because people are not going to be fair. Right. Right.
right. So then we sit here and you do that to me, and all I do is look at you and they say like I care. I was like, dude, you're messing with the wrong person. I
Right.
know what I like. I've been through the fire, right? I've been baptized by fire when it comes to all this geek stuff. And I'm not just talking about
Right.
games, comics, I'm talking about all this stuff, man. Because like I said, we grew up in a time when being a nerd was not a good thing. It's kind of cool now, and it's amazing to watch. And again, kudos to all the guys up there that are up and coming nerds, right? That don't have to deal with it. We have to, true
Right.
nerds.
Yeah, they really didn't know it. Yeah, no clue. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
they
like I
were.
tell my kids all the time, dude. When I look at my kids, because they're kind of foolish, right? But I'm like, dude, you couldn't grow up in my childhood, guys. You guys would have made it. It was just too rough, too rough and
Well,
tumble.
our battle, right? Our
Yeah.
battle was not only with fitting in because we were like I talked with Zobi on the interview with him that I did.
Oh, great interview, great interview.
Oh, thanks, man, thanks. I had a lot of fun, man, a lot of fun. It was like we were our own thing because we didn't fit in with the nerds per se. Like we weren't like nerds like the way they were perceived back then when we grew up, right? That was a different type of nerd perception, right? We were just considered like almost misfits, like weird, because we like certain things like comic books or like we like video games and like and the battle wasn't just socially with our peers. No, the battle was at home with our parents
But our
because
parents,
they were like either that was something evil, demonic, It's breaking your brain cells, it's making you dumb, making you useless.
Waste of
And to a
time,
certain
waste of
to a certain
money,
and
do
to a
something more
certain extent,
productive.
to be fair, to a certain extent, did that to some people, right? Some, but not all, right? But it was a label, right? It was a label and a stigma that we couldn't get away from. And then going to church, it was like, oh, everybody knew your business because your parents would talk to, you know, the people from the church. We need help. What can we do? Our child was doing. You get what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah,
these people today, they have no idea that those were the hoops that we had to go through. It wasn't just trying to fit in, like I said, socially. It was at home. It was within the church, our family, friends of the family. Oh boy, like it was like woof. Sometimes that you would have to you would have to hide what you do. Your parents tell you don't put that away, or you get a spanking, or they'll give you that look like what's gonna happen after they leave. You're gonna get it. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So they don't understand that. They have it easy now. Now, being part of this culture, right? Culture, or being part of this medium, it's cool now. We're the cool cats now. Everybody want to be us, right? And that's what I was trying to tell Zoe. Everybody wants to imitate us. Everybody want to be down with us. Everybody want to be a gamer. Everybody want to be a comic book fan.
But
Everybody want to
that's
be a figure collector. You know what I'm saying?
but that's the sad thing though, is like it's not just being it, right? It's the experience of being it. Like I think that's where that benefited us, like that baptism by fire. We went through it. We went through it when it wasn't cool, right? So it means something more to us. For a lot of these guys that I see them online, they think they're nerds, but they're not. And I'm not trying to look, be who you are and do what you do. I don't, that doesn't bother me. And a lot of them have this false pretense. Just because you put on like a Dungeons and Dragons shirt that has dice on it, right? That do you play D&D? Have you ever been a dungeon master?
Right,
And I'm not saying
right.
that you have to do that. But what I'm saying is, it's just like, do you really know your stuff? Are you really a part? Like I think you put it perfectly, culture, because it matters, right?
Right.
That culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's something that you kind of grow up in. That's a part of you. And it's not like that. It's not prevalent. And I don't have a problem that it's not prevalent, but please don't pretend that you are. Right? And
Right.
I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like getting back to the whole thing with the media. The media think they're that way. They think they're gamers, but they're not. And
Right.
it even
Right.
shows so much so when they start picking sides and being
Yeah.
biased
Yeah.
towards one
And
side
then
or the other.
and then they don't even show the respect and the
No,
camaraderie, right, to us. They'll be like, you're old. You don't know what you talk about. You're not a gamer. Like, what? Dude, I'm the whole very reason why gaming is where it is today. We made this medium for you the way it is. You're like,
well, like some of these
yeah,
guys, right? But they're like, oh yeah, what's your gamer score? Or you do stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, have you ever rolled Galaga? Have you ever
right.
rolled? Hey, go ahead, Eva. I'm gonna mute.
No, no, no. You're absolutely right. And but my point of it is that it's sad how how they look at us now, right? These younger new age gamers, right? And show no kind of respect or sense of gratitude, right, towards us, like because of the fact that we've been here through the trenches from the very beginning. We fought the good fights throughout the years to get gaming to the point where it's respected as a medium that is considered actually valuable, that is not just looked at as a waste of time, that it's considered an art form, that is considered respectable, right? So many different things. And this is the challenges, and this is the behavior that I just, as adult and rooted in historic or historian gamers, that I just don't, you know, comprehend. I don't get it. It's like I was looking at a movie director like Steven Spielberg from back in the day, or George Lucas, or James Cameron, or John Carpenter, right? That have pioneered, right? Even Stanley Kubrick, they were pioneers of the industry that made it grow, that turned it into what it is today as a medium, and made it in such a art form. And then we look at their movies and be like, oh, they're just trash, or they're garbage, or that's a waste of time, and show them no respect, not understanding, realizing that without the Ridley Scotts of the world and and the John Kubricks, right, Stanley Kubricks, we would not have, and the movie industry would not be where it is today. I'd be curious to the people in the comment section, whether you're here live now or whether you come later. I mean, write some of your opinions and thoughts about how you feel, especially if you guys are like us, older, rooted gamers, about the disrespect and the kind of like that attitude that these younger guys have, that they act with you like you're irrelevant or you're not important. You can swap out. I'm done writing. Because I don't know if most of you guys that are our age have the same sentiment or feel the same way. But I'd be curious to know that, or just think and see how you guys feel. Because I know with me, it makes me laugh. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I mean, I joke around even with my own kids. They make fun of me being funny, but I think deep down inside they do have a respect for my knowledge and my history within the gaming scene, and they realize that I really loved it and I'm passionate about it. Even though they try to make fun of me and call me old fart or old fart, like I'm better than you. But I think they do it out of just being funny to kind of joke around with their dad, not to be disrespectful. But a lot of the other younger people, they're really not like that. They really act and seriously think that because they're young and have better reflexes that it makes them better. But they don't realize how much these newer games really hold their hand. They're not really as challenging as what we
Yeah.
used to play back in the day. We used to have one live games that we used to play where you had one man and one life and you would die. You would have to learn the entire game, and the pattern of it without dying and keep putting quarter after quarter and learning it. And they don't realize that. So that's what makes it even more comedic for me, to be honest. Um, Sega forever. So I don't know if you really you know feel the same way, but I would like to see people in the comments that are our age, like I said, to leave comments and let me know and let us know what they feel, what they think, how they think about that.
Well, I know for me, the only issue I have with it, right, and I know, look, you know, the torch is going to get passed, right? Things going to carry on, but it's just the ignorance of it, right? Because look, there's a foundation to, and not just gaming, just there's a foundation to everything, right? And when you don't respect that foundation or the principles or the core of what it is, then that's
Right.
when things go bad. That's when things, go away, and that's when things collapse. And again, we're talking about the media, but just gaming in general, that seems to be the issue, right? Until what Microsoft comes along and is doing what they're doing, um, with the backwards compatibility, with trying to help not just the big developers, but the little guys. Um, and everything that people said that Microsoft was doing, they weren't. And the things that they don't get credit for, they are. They are doing as a big corporation on top of that. And a
Right.
lot of that goes to Phil Spencer, right? A lot of that goes to the people that saw his vision and then follow through with it and then work hard to make this thing a reality. And that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
so hard on the media. And then we're gonna talk about the gaming community next week. We're gonna cover that too because there's some stuff that needs to be said as well, right? But again, when you look at the gaming media, how their misinformation, um, greed in some aspects, right? Because they want the clicks, right? They want to be relevant, um, at the cost of their principles. And once that stuff goes going out the window, man, you can't rely on them anymore. And this is why guys like us do this. This is why other people have come up and they've gone down. If you notice now, like I've been telling you to do this series, I've been doing a lot of research. And I wish I could
Mhm.
present it in the way that I wanted to, but I haven't got all my stuff set up, and I will eventually. I wanted to put out some stats and figures, man, post some of those receipts that we talk about so much. But for those of us in the Xbox community, we know this because we've been dealing with it for the last 6 years, specifically. So we know what's going on. Um, but it's just something that it needs to be said. And I've been watching a lot of these, like not like I told you, there are a lot of people that I don't normally watch. And I'm talking across the board. It's whether it's Nintendo guys, PlayStation guys, and Xbox guys, and even in some of the Xbox guys, um, I don't even watch anymore, right? But to get a better understanding, like I got an idea of what's going on, but to get a better understanding of what's going on, I've been watching a lot of these shows, and it's amazing to me how the narrative has changed so much that the media is basically quiet. There's people that throw a little shade here and there. We talked about that offline a little bit, but it's nowhere on the level that it was even last year. Definitely not on the level that it was in 2013, right? Because like you were alluding to earlier, right? They see that it's this the shift is so big that they see it. Even they can't even cover it up. Either they can't cover up or they can't be ignorant of it because it's changing so much
Right,
and it's
right.
changing so fast and it's coming in so big. I mean, Microsoft has made moves this past year that was humongous, man.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny, like we talked about Colin Moriarty. I'm not trying to pick on him or anything like that, man. But there's a podcast that he does where he talks about it, and they're legitimately worried about PlayStation. They're legitimately worried about Sony.
Yeah, because they never seen this type of change and shift
Right.
so fast, so drastically, especially coming from their beloved company. Again, because Sony has been the darling of the media and the industry, and it's been for a long time,
Well, and
and
they're
it's
worried
been
too because they know they can't hide behind this stuff anymore.
yeah, you can't because it's too evident. You can't just be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah. You can't do it anymore.
Man,
You
Microsoft,
can't.
again, I know I keep on harping on this, man, but we did a video, like a whole, like 2 hours on this, but that Bethesda purchase, man, really just smacked them. It caught
Right.
everybody off guard, and it just really just woke them up.
Well, I mean, I think that's when they finally realized because I think at first when they saw that they bought people like Double Fine and like they bought, Turn 10, not Turn 10, Playground Games and Ninja Theory, right? I think they were like, okay, they made some big moves. They opened up the initiative, but that's it. They're not gonna make no more big moves. You know what I mean? I really
Oh, but
think
then
they
they're so clueless, and maybe by choice, but they're just not that bright. But
right.
but looking at where Microsoft is now, and looking back at those purchases, they make 100% absolute
Sense.
genius sense,
Yeah, and they
right?
make genius sense. Yeah. But I'm saying like I think when they first did that, right?
Yeah.
Even the media, the fan base, everybody, they thought okay, they did this. Okay, they're not gonna do nothing else. That's it. They're not gonna really do nothing else. And then when the Ramblings came up, where they announced, hey, we purchased Bethesda. It'll be finalized by next year at this time. They were probably like, nah, no way. Even though it was officially announced, but they were like, nah, there's no way. There's no way. But when it finally finalized, it really, I think, hit the fan. You know what I mean? Where they were like, holy shit,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
guys
When they
really
had
bought.
that
You
round
know,
table, man, that was their coming to Jesus moment, dude. Because now they realize, because the purchase itself was like, man, that's Microsoft. Microsoft's letting them know who they are. And then when
yeah,
they did that round table,
like there's that's Microsoft swinging what they have, right, so to speak. You know,
right? Yeah, dude. And then that round table, because the way they did the round table too, right? By having all the introducing all the studios. It was like an
right,
hour and 20, hour and a half, something like that. It was like a
right.
long, um,
Yeah.
being able to say the things that they couldn't say because the deal didn't go through 6 months ago, right?
Right.
They were both legally and professionally, not wanting to say too much, but then that round table changed everything.
Yeah, because they were able to introduce more personally each studio
Yeah,
that was involved, each studio that's coming with the acquisition.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of studios and a lot of things, including the id tech software, they didn't even realize, that all that was there. A lot of people, right?
Well, yeah,
So,
they willingly didn't want to look at it. Like they were just like, well, because they were more worried about, well, does that mean we get exclusives? Well, no, they can't. Microsoft wouldn't dare not give it on PlayStation because they'd lose out money. And then
right,
that's when the Game Pass comes in, right? They're like, oh wow, Game Pass is at what, 20 million subscribers? And like we talked about offline, right? I'm like, dude, imagine if this thing hits 50 million subscribers. That's market share,
right,
right? There's no reason
absolutely.
for Microsoft to share anything at that point if they choose not to. Not Microsoft, they probably will because they're like, Phil. I love Phil, man, but he's like such a nice guy,
Yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
sorry. That's my. I mean, I'm glad he's nice and he is, and he's done the yeoman's work, man. His vision is realized, but I mean, I want if he wants to do
Well,
that, he'll do that. But at the same time, right, that shut a lot of people up. Plus, all those games
yeah,
coming to
well,
Game Pass the
because
next day.
well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The problem is that they thought because Phil was so how you call it because he was doing things so nonchalant, right? So
Right.
calmly, so peacefully. They really thought, like you said, well, Phil is, I guess, soft, right?
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, right? But the entire time, when you observe all of his interviews and all the things that he said, he's always been very straightforward and giving the answers right in those interviews and the words and the choices of words that he used in a lot of his interviews like when he said that this is not a race, this is a race, not a sprint, or something like that. When he
Right.
said we will never be caught ever again with the most underpowered console. When he said things like we're going to make this up for our for our customers for anything that we might have failed them on. When he said things like, this is a chess game. You know what I'm trying to say? All
Right.
those things were hints in word form of his real outlook on the situation, right? And he didn't have to speak being snarky, rude, unprofessional, disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. Even when he said, we don't look at Sony as our competitor. You remember when he said that, right?
Yeah.
All those things was them basically saying that they're not on our level and we're going to show you on the level that we're in. Just give us time, right? And that in itself, even when he did the commercial, I don't know if you remember the commercial that he did where he showed himself driving away in a Ferrari. Do you remember
Yeah.
that with a cigar
Yeah.
in his mouth? That was Phil's way of saying, I'm the one with the big, you know, cojones here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Now watch me show you my next move. And he did it in such a classy, nonchalant, respectful way that people really underestimated him. But now, it's like you said, there's no way to really define him because his moves say completely different of what we thought it was, what we saw with his behavior. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And his bold risk, like adding Game Pass, Xbox exclusive day one on Game Pass. With him getting so much backing from Satya Nadella, where he says you guys have an open purse, with saying things like we're going to buy more acquisitions after they bought Bethesda. They already said we're going to buy more. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, and people are still questioning like, no, they're not. They're not going to buy no more studios, right? You know what I'm saying? I got to see that. I got to see that. Um, I think my son found the podcast you were talking about, Sega Forever,
Oh, and
with
Moriarty. Yeah.
what you told me. And I think that people, and the funny part is, I really think people still think, oh no, they're just talking. They're not going to do nothing. So imagine they bought, let's say, I'm not even going to say Ubisoft because really I don't think they need Ubisoft. They don't need somebody like EA. I don't think they need somebody like Activision. I think they need to be their own entity, right? Because they're very different in a lot of ways, especially with their practices and how they do business, right? I think they need to buy the smaller guys, right? Like the guy who's doing Bright Memory Infinite, something like that. Or even if they bought somebody, imagine they did some type of relationship where they bought somebody like Kojima Studios, let's just say, right? Or Nemo Productions, let's just say, right?
Right.
Or Tomonobu's do studio, right? Tomonobu Productions, or Sega, or Square Enix. I think these guys are killing themselves. They won't be able to read. They won't know what to do.
Dude, we'd have to check on them seriously. No, you're right. You're 100% right. These guys, they would lose their mind.
We're gonna have to
Look,
go to the hospital and bring them flowers and candy. We're really gonna have to.
well, look at E3, right? So
Just lower the volume, puppy. That's all. Just lower the volume. You can watch it. Lower the volume. Yeah, go ahead.
if you look at E3, right? Imagine this, right? So they go to E3,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not having all the crap that they have to deal with all these other years, right? Because it's a brand new, it's a new day, right? And it's perfect timing that E3 is actually going to is actually going to happen this year, given how
Right.
everything's changed. So
I'm
imagine that
excited.
they go,
I'm excited.
imagine
We
that
should
they
do a
start their
show.
show.
We should do a show about that too, my brother.
Yeah, we can,
Talking
dude. We
about
should. I
yeah,
should have
yeah, yeah.
everything. I should have everything set up better than where we are now.
No, I definitely would like to get your thoughts on that because it's exciting that it's coming back. It really is.
But just imagine now, if they okay, so like they don't have to own these companies outright, like you just said for Ubisoft. If you can just
Yes.
Get Ubisoft service into Game Pass.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
they come out, they announce something with Ubisoft service, they announce something with Steam, right? And then they say, and then the studio we're picking up is Sega.
Right. Right.
Dude, I mean,
Even if they did deals where they're gonna make games like they did with the OG, even if they don't own them, but
yeah,
they just made deals where, guess what? The next, I don't know, Golden Axe coming exclusive to Xbox. Just a hypothetical, right? Even something like that can have a lot of impact. And it's
and I
gonna be
think
on Game Pass
that would be
day and date.
safer. That would be
Right.
safer too for the for the other
Right.
side. I think they
Right.
could
Right.
manage that a little bit better than if Sega
Right.
was just
Right.
bought up. And when I mean Sega being bought up, I mean everything. And the one
Yes.
thing I love about Microsoft is that they'll go back and do the work on this, right? So
Yes.
like I want to see Genesis stuff on Game Pass. I want to see Dreamcast and Saturn stuff on Game Pass. I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
see localization of some of that stuff that was only in Japan because they're going to own everything outright. The same
Right.
thing that they're doing with Bethesda, they can do with Sega. And people just don't
Right.
realize the library of games that Sega has.
Right. 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 They don't. They don't. They don't because there's a lot of little game and smaller games there that they never even heard of because only a real true Sega hardcore fanatic knows about, right? Or because it was
Right.
ahead of it was before their time, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm,
And then it'll give Sega what I mean not Sega, sorry. Well, it gives Sega a second breath, right?
mm-hmm.
But it'll also give Microsoft one thing that they need for Game Pass, which is continuous content.
Yes, continuous content,
Because
beautifully put.
As great as Game Pass is right now, the one concern I have for Game Pass, and it's not a major concern, but it's something I think Microsoft should pay attention to, is they gotta constantly upgrade and update
Yeah, they gotta constantly
that
put content,
service.
like Netflix. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Netflix. Yeah, they gotta
because they're in a whole
constantly.
nother, it's a whole nother ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So don't worry about your Nintendos or your Sony, which they haven't been, right? Because they're with the big boys now.
Yeah,
In order to be the Netflix of gaming, right? That content is king with all this kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Because the newness will eventually wear off, right? The great thing I see with Game Pass is not just the amount, because like you see a lot of these media types talking about, oh um, look at all the stuff that you were able to get for free, which is not technically free. Like all the stuff that you can pay. Now, they're so enamored by that, but they're also glossing over the content itself being great. They're really great content.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the strategy moving forward is more content, and the challenge is content on that
And
level.
the diversity too. The diversity they have.
Yeah, the diversity on Game Pass is organic, and it's organic because Microsoft took the time to acquire certain studios, and they took the time to for the ID and Xbox program. Like a lot of people might have thought that Xbox did this just because Sony was doing it and they're praised for it, which we found out is all BS, right? Which these guys are crying about now. Where's our ID? Where's our indie game? Oh, you guys left them in the dirt because the narrative, it didn't fit your narrative anymore, so you left them in the dirt. But Microsoft actually stuck with it, liked the um, repertoire they were having with a lot of
Hmm.
these smaller developers, and they built something off of that, which Chris Charlotte actually grew. You know what I mean?
Right. I think Chris Charlotte's done a really good job, even though he's behind the scenes and you don't really hear from him.
Right. And then when he does, like, and that's another bad thing too. This is what I mean about being in the culture, and again, crapping on the media because they're not part of this culture, gaming culture. If you're in the gaming culture, you'll take the time to watch this, right? Like if you're in the gaming culture and then you give a presentation, right? You want to know the ins and outs of the behind the scenes. You know, like how
Right.
you sent me the thing from Monster. What was it? I'm drawing up like Alex Kidd.
Oh yeah, I'm so happy we're getting that remaster physically. Wow.
Yeah, because that matters to us. It's not just getting the physical box, which it is about the physical
Hmm.
box, but it's all the extras, all the intangibles that come with it.
Yeah, and it's the principle of it as well too. You know, it makes you feel as an Xbox gamer that they're giving you worth and value. They're not ignoring you. Like the stupidity they're doing. They just announced House of the Dead remake, right?
Yeah,
Coming out, right? From the first one, the one that was on Saturn, the arcade one, right?
right.
And instead of making a day and date with all the consoles, no, it's for the Switch, like they did with Panzer Dragoon. And it almost feels like, oh, so you're trying to force us to buy it on the Switch to then give it to us later on? Like, come on, no, man, that's not how that should be.
So just really quickly, brother. Hey, Fireboss, yeah. I've been actually checking out the Japanese YouTubers, and it's interesting that there's a lot of it's not as I hate to use the word hostile, but I can see that they're a
Mm-hmm.
lot more open to the idea because of all the stuff that Microsoft's been doing, especially with the Game Pass. But still, they have a lot of groundwork to put down. Um, but I want, for me personally, for Xbox and how they approach Japan, I want it to be a cherry on the sundae and not the whole sundae. You know, it's just like what Microsoft has done to circumvent the media and all the
Yeah,
Sony ponies and all the hate
yeah, yeah,
online.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but they doing all of what they did, they just circumvented everybody. They just went around everybody. They built their own stuff.
Right,
Right?
right.
So they built their own stuff, and that's what I want. Like, that's what I kind of want to see them do with Japan. I don't want them to get too lost on Japan because, as we both know, I mean, you were stationed here in Hawaii. Japan has its own culture,
Yeah,
a very
yeah.
different culture from the West.
But I think it's that Microsoft is starting to get the appeal from because if you saw, and from other places today in Korea, the console sold out in less than like a minute. The
Well,
Xbox One Series X.
Korea
You
is
know
a
what I
little
mean?
bit. Korea, as an Asian country, Korea is a lot more westernized than Japan is, in a sense, and they're more open to westernized stuff than Japan is.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
And they
Japan
have
is
interest, and they have interest on Xbox because you see them talking about it, and you see articles saying that they want to make games on Xbox. You see it.
Well, I did a video about that like a couple of years ago, talking about that how they should just kind of. And I didn't mean like leave Japan totally,
Yeah,
but
they should
I would say
embrace
they should work
Korea.
to.
They should
Yeah,
concentrate more on Korea because they're showing interest, and maybe that will kind of help with the Japanese market. You know what I mean?
well, yeah, it really it kind of will. I mean,
I know they don't like each other. I get it,
not just that.
but
It's just that they're just very different,
yeah, I know they are different. You're
and their
right.
relationship with the U.S. especially. I'm not talking just about defense or anything like that. I'm talking about across the board. Um, Japan. I'm trying to watch my words.
No.
Well, I'll just say this. Like
Listen,
Fireboss was saying, right?
your
There's,
children are Japanese. You have nothing that you need
well,
to be
I mean,
careful about saying.
oh no, that part. Oh no, not in a bad way. I just want to
Yeah,
phrase
I
it to
know.
where people
I
understand.
know what. Yeah, yeah, I know because people are just so one-sided. They just don't get it. Right, right.
Oh, look what Fireboss. Oh, Itagaki, yeah, Itagaki. But look what he put
All right,
there.
boss. You need to stop. You need to stop. You need to stop.
Dude,
You're so
we're gonna
stupid.
get bro. We're gonna get you on here, man. If you're available for the next one, let me know.
Uh,
We're gonna get you on here. Uh,
uh,
and then look what he put.
well,
Dude,
you
that's
know
what
what,
he's on.
boss? You know what, boss? I agree with you. I agree with you with propping up Kojima. With the next game. Uh, yeah, yeah, it's a Gucci, Sakaguchi.
That's Sakaguchi.
I
We're gonna do it.
agree with you. I agree with you. But to be honest, I kind of want it to be a thing just to piss off the Sony
Yeah,
fan
I was
base.
gonna say, dude. I was gonna say the same thing.
Just to see the tears
No,
dripping
because
down their eyes. I
I,
know
dude,
people doing the
I
game
was in
with
a
Xbox.
discussion. I was in a discussion group where this guy said to me, "I thought you Xbox guys don't like it." I said, "Yeah, I don't like it. Okay, that game looks ridiculous." This is why would you like it? I was like, "Oh, it's in Game Pass," and the dude got pissed, dude. He got so
Yeah,
pissed.
exactly,
I was like,
exactly.
"Well, it's in
It's
Game
kind of,
Pass. Why not?"
boss. We've been through hell and back with the three, Xbox One generation, and to be honest, they deserve some of this backlash and shade. They really do because they did it first. They were the ones, and we weren't trying to pick a fight. We were just trying to say that you guys are wrong because you're not seeing the bigger picture and you're not really embracing what's being offered. But they still would do it, right? So just to see them cry, I kind of really want the Kojima thing to be true, to be honest, because I'm not a big fan of these games. But I'll even fuck around and buy the game anyway, just to be a troll because I don't like the fan base. You know what I mean? I don't like their fan base. I don't like how they act. I don't like how they treat people. So hey, look, I bought the game and it's on Game Pass. So funny. That would
Dude,
be so funny.
you can make multiple videos. And just,
Oh, for real? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of giving out on you, my brother. My
no,
eyelids
yeah, we're
are
gonna, yeah,
they're,
we're
tar-
gonna
they're
wrap
starting.
up.
They're
And we've been
start.
going 2 hours.
My eyelids are starting to get stuck. I'm sorry, my brother.
No, and look for all of you guys out there that I know you've written me about certain things. You guys gotta understand, man. I'm all the way in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I'm on a rock in the
Yeah,
middle of the Pacific Ocean, and
yeah,
he bought
yeah,
all the way on the East Coast.
yeah.
Um,
It's like 2 o'clock in the morning for me right now. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I do
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. Yeah, let's wrap it up. Um,
Yeah.
but I just close in saying this. Touch on this real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So the one good thing that's coming of all this with all the media changing
Mm-hmm.
the way um, the one great thing I see about all of this is now we can get beyond the BS. We can
Yeah,
get beyond
yeah,
all the console war crap. I mean, it'll always be there, right? But
yeah,
at least a
yeah.
little bit of reason, right? And some perspective will start creeping in to where now we can
Mm-hmm.
have like how you had that excellent interview with Zoe, right? Being a
Right.
PlayStation guy, being an Xbox guy, but you guys can
Mm-hmm.
sit down with being gamers, and actually we can actually move the conversations forward. Because look,
Right.
when you watch the Colin Moriarty thing, spoiler, there's just really spoiler alert and stuff like that. When he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about these games, I can kind of identify with what he's saying because I've seen the trailers for it. I've seen the trailers for these games, and in hindsight, looking at it as a gamer, yeah, maybe this is what you looks great. If it's interesting, fine, then play it. I won't
Yeah.
cry about it. I won't get pissed off
Yeah.
about it. It's not on Xbox because on our side, and it's always been this way, right? And the media
Mm-hmm.
never covers this stuff because on the Xbox guys actually want PlayStation. I'm the exception because I made a conscious choice not to support Xbox. I mean
Yeah.
PlayStation, only
Yeah.
Xbox
Yeah.
for reasons, right? But for the majority of people we know, dude, they have PlayStation. So when God of War comes out, they go
Right.
buy God of War.
Right. Well, I was saying jokingly on the Exile last week, I think it was last Sunday,
Right.
that, but I think it has some type of validity that a lot of Xbox guys support PlayStation, like really support it more than actual PlayStation fans because we'll buy the games because we don't have the choice of like something like Game Pass. We'll literally buy them and support them regardless of what, and even if we have our preferred platform. And again, that's a very telling thing because it's true. Just like what you're saying, that even the media, even though it may look and feel hypocritical, right?
Yeah.
It's still good because now it's good perception, right?
Right.
That regardless whether, how they say good media and bad media is always it's still media, right? It's kind of that same mentality, but in this case, that it's good because regardless whether it looks hypocritical on their part, at least the narrative will change and will be more on even par, even state, right? Where it'll be more people being more objective and subjective about Xbox and not just PlayStation and Nintendo. So in that sense, it's good, no matter what, like you said, right? It's really good that that's what's going on. I agree
Right.
100%. And I hope it continues because I think with what Microsoft's doing, if they keep at this pace, they will have the ability to actually really win over new fans and people that thought that they weren't really worth playing and having their console are generally going to be like, yo, I really like Xbox. I was wrong. And I really want to be part of their ecosystem, even though I'm a PlayStation fan first and foremost, or even though I'm a Nintendo fan first and foremost, which is good because that's what it should be about. No matter what it is, at the end of the day, with gamers. You saw I sat down with Obi, even though I think I could have sat down with him even in the beginning of the generation, I could have still sat down with him because he's the type of person you can actually talk to and have real gaming conversation, and he'll hear you out. He's not just gonna not listen to you and call you stupid and ignore what you're saying because he has knowledge and educated. Even though he likes to troll. So um, I think either way, either way, I think I think it would have been either way. It would have been something that I could have done with him. Like I said, the collaboration.
Well, you
Uh,
guys definitely should collab more. Seriously.
well, I invited him. I told him, my channels are open. It has open doors for you. This is your home, and if you ever want to come on and do anything, just I'll be more than glad to have you on. When I do my podcast, you're welcome. You can come on. And he said, fine. Even though I know it probably won't be as easy for him to conversate because he likes to talk more and concentrate more on the RPG aspect of it. But the fact
Right.
that he's such a gamer and knows how to make fun and have fun with it, no matter what the topics may be, I think you can still have a good time with him. You know what I'm trying to say? And he'll probably do it even being funny and poking fun in his own way, but in good taste. You get what I'm trying to say?
Dude, that's
I
like
had a
if
great time. Go
I
ahead.
I think because you guys can have that kind of conversation because of your credentials as old school gamers.
Right, I got you. I got you. I had a
So
great
there's
time
a
with him. I
mutual
thought
respect there.
he's a great dude. He's a great dude. He's a really nice guy. I talked to him behind his closed, behind closed scenes before we went on air, and we were talking for a couple of weeks. Actually, it was months. We were trying to set it up, but at first, I thought he wasn't going to really want to do it because he felt, I felt that he was burnt by other people from the communities, and that trust and his space. It's not something easy that people just open up to again. And I was glad that he was willing to give me that chance because even though I'm an Xbox guy, I'm not like other people, right? I'm more
Right.
serious. I try to be more intellectual, even though I'd still like to goof around and be funny. And I'm so happy that he gave me that chance. So he saw that not out Xbox dudes the same way I see him as a PlayStation dude or even a Nintendo guy now. I don't see him in the same way that I do other people, like let's say somebody like Porter Rock or Jabari, that they're more people that you can't really probably reach out to and get to them in a way that you can get to them
Yeah, there wouldn't be a point to do that.
some serious
Oh, what's up, brother? I'm losing you on the microphone. Yeah, can you hear me, bro? Ebots. Okay, well, okay, I lost my brother, man. Yeah, but it's been a good 2 hours. Like, yeah, we went 2 hours long. Yeah, Fireboss, man. Yeah, that Nintendo rumor. That was a bit crazy. And like I said, it's it's not surprising given everything that Microsoft has done the last couple. Yeah, I think he like lost the signal. I think maybe his headphones too, because I see him in my thing, but it might have been his headphones died out because we're doing it. Yeah, that's cool, man. We're gonna wrap it up anyway because it's 2 in the morning for him. Um, yeah, yeah, they forgot about that, dude. You're right. Exactly what you said. And Microsoft, Phil and Xbox, man, they're playing with these guys. They're trying to build these relationships, but they kept on getting burnt. And like I said, Phil's a nice guy, but we got at some point you got to move on. Yeah, because he did say that. I remember. And that's another thing. Like a lot of people, yeah. Well, I gotta wrap up too, my brother. But definitely, so I've been doing this with Hebot, man, because we've been doing it as a series. But I actually wanted to bring the podcast back to us talking about just gaming news in general. So yeah, man, if you're up for that, we'll do one. I'll prop one up for next week. And I'm trying to get other people too, like NWO Prime, and it's hard. I know it's hard. I'm gonna be off. Um, I'll try and do it on the weekends and stuff, but everybody's busy too, and I'm busy on the weekends. But I'm gonna have a day off next week, so maybe I'll try and put something in the earlier daytime so everybody can jump on. Because I welcome anybody, but I understand it's kind of hard because the time differences are crazy. But yeah, so yeah, we'll see with that Nintendo thing, man. I think you're right though. The Zero Cloud makes more sense. But then stuff in the background as opposed to it's interesting to me because the same people that want Game Pass on the Wii or no, sorry, the Switch, sorry, that want Game Pass on the Switch. When you mention, oh, what about Nintendo games coming to Game Pass? They're like, oh, absolutely not. Right. So that's what I mean. These guys are like, yeah, they're fanboys, right? And because they're kind of greedy, right? Because maybe they only have a Switch. And look, it'll work out fine for them, but what about the rest of us? They forget though. Microsoft has done a great job with the pricing on this, and making people feel like that's more value for you. But in the interim, man, if they try and do that, and you're not getting anything in return, man. I mean, regardless of what Microsoft can and can't do monetarily, right? They're just gonna boil down to the actual fans as well, feeling like they got ripped off. So yeah, brother, no worries, man. We'll do that. We'll do it. Oh wait, sorry, yeah, I missed this one. Yeah. Well, the great thing about it again, man, is that ship is sailed. I mean, they've been dumping on Phil, on Microsoft, on Xbox for so long. I mean, I know for me as an Xbox fan, man, I'm numb, like 100% numb. Hey, what's up, brother? You're back.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't mean to leave so abruptly. My internet, for some reason, I think it's rebooting or something in my area. Probably it just cut off. It completely cut off. So my apologies about that.
No
But
worries, man.
I just
And
wanted
the
to come
fact that
back
we're
in.
able to go so long.
Right, right. Well, I mean, Hawaii. I'm in New Jersey. It is
Yeah, that's
pretty
right. Yeah.
amazing when you really think about it. That shit look funny.
Backwards. Instead of him making sure that he's okay, he's helping his wife. He's captured. Samuel Jackson's captured.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that shit pisses me off.
So
What was that?
yeah. So yeah, well, enjoy that. Enjoy that. Dude, I've watched that thing like a couple times, man. It's like only 10 minutes.
Which one?
It's that
The
Colin Moriarty thing.
Oh, I'm gonna watch it. My son found it. The one you were actually suggesting, he found it. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch it. I'm definitely gonna watch it because it's good to see the perspective from an actual PlayStation fan, right? Because Moriarty is a PlayStation fan, but he's also a fanboy. Like he's one of those that they could do no wrong. You know what I'm trying to say?
dude,
So
he
the
blocked me.
meltdown
That's what,
must be really funny. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's why I was laughing
The,
because I was like, dude, he blocked
the
me on Twitter.
meltdown
I
must
was
be
like,
hysterical. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
well, see,
meltdown got to
he's
be
definitely
hysterical.
having he's having a coming to Jesus moment. So you'll see.
Well,
But brother,
I'll
let's
tell you
wrap it
what.
up, man. So, oh, go ahead.
really fast. I think it's good that people like him, right?
Yeah.
And the other guy with the glasses, that was his boy,
Greg Miller.
Greg Miller,
Yeah, I know what you're
right?
talking about. I can't.
I think it's good that at least they're seeing it and they're calling it out, right? That they're realizing, hey, this is not the same Sony. Something's not right. Because at least it brings awareness to their audience that follow, because they got a big following, right? That at least it lets them know, listen, they're not undefeated or unbreakable. And, we want them to stay relevant or stay around. We have to start accepting the fact that maybe things aren't the way that we thought they were, right? And that's the way it should be, no matter what, right? So yeah, definitely, I'm glad that at least they're at least putting it out there. You know what I mean? It's like you said, it's the same idea behind the idea of media being positive about Xbox. That even though it may look hypocritical and feel that way, at least it's good because it's starting to give good perception, even if it's disingenuous. You see what I'm saying? Even if
Yeah.
it looks disingenuous, at least it's positive, and it can even out the playing field. So I agree completely. Yeah.
I know you're tired, but at least I mean, if you can, try and watch it. So, but you gotta watch
No,
it
no,
again.
I'm gonna watch it definitely. Probably
Yeah,
more than likely tomorrow, but I'm definitely gonna watch it. My son found it. But
yeah,
I wish I could stay longer with you, brother, because I love having conversations with you. That's number one. We can have great conversation, just like I can have great conversation with Sega Man, with E Rock, because even 100, because we are so much alike in so many ways, but we have so many differences and look at things in different angles as well. So it
mm,
works and it makes sense. Um, and anytime we get together to do this, like I said, I feel like my brand is part of your brand, and I hope you feel the same way,
yeah,
because
definitely.
that's how I feel, and that's how I felt with anybody that was close to, like when I did things with Legal, when I did things with Ghost Rider, when did things with 100, with anybody I do things, even with Microbox of X. That's how I like to feel. That's how it felt like to me, like a family in the gaming community, right? Um, and it's genuine and the love's there, the respect is there. I just feel bad because it's so late for me, and for you it's just hitting probably like 8 o'clock now, right?
Yeah,
But for me it's getting so late, and it's hard because my sickness is not sleeping well.
right, right.
Right now I'm getting nauseous because I've been up so long and not really slept, and I haven't really gone to sleep. So just to give you an example, right? But it's nothing against you or personal. I hope you never feel like I'm not, you're disturbing me, because you're not. Because I told you I'm there for you no matter what. When we do the next episode, I'm there for you, right? And anytime you need me, I'm there for you. It's
Well, the
just
next one,
I can't always do it as long, right?
right, right.
So I just hope you don't take that personal. That you understand that it's
No,
not nothing with
I
you.
always appreciate the time I get.
I
Trust me.
know, I know,
But
I
yeah,
know.
so shut yourself out, brother, and then we'll wrap it up.
No, it's like always. I'm part of my brother's Xbox All In podcast. I always have been. This is my home. I love my brother from Hawaii. I love him as a person, because he's one of the most genuine and real people that a lot of people overlook and never really took the time to get to know. But I did, and because I did, it's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been a very great experience calling him a friend and a brother, really, because he's a good people. He's a good person, and I'm proud. I'm proud to be part of your channel, and I'm proud to be your friend. Um, as always, you guys can find me on my channel, Ebot. You can find me, as like I said before and earlier, on Instagram and Twitter under Ebot Powerful Gamer. C_respect on Instagram, on Xbox Live and PlayStation, Ebot 8 on PlayStation. I mean on Switch and on PlayStation, Alpha from Sky. On the Exile podcast Sunday nights with my brother E Rock, Unlimited, Sega Man, and Tuck Master. And obviously, Alpha podcast with Sega Man on Saturdays.
Yeah, good one.
When I do my own, we got next. And with 100, when he shoots me, a link on Sunday nights or Saturday nights rather, on the Xbox House No Games. I'm all over the place. I'm like an Xbox professional reporter. I'm all over. Uh, so wherever they want me, I'm there. So yeah, for sure. That's where you guys can find me, and and I hope I can go strong for another 10 and 10, 15 years. Who knows? As long as I have the passion for gaming, I can talk about it all the time. You know.
There you go, 100 just jumped in. What's up,
Hey,
100?
100, what's going on? I just mentioned. I was just talking about you.
Hey, just
Rewind
shouted
it.
you.
I was talking bad about you. Rewind it. Rewind it.
No, it wasn't.
He knows that's my brother. He knows I love him.
Yeah, 100's like the most 100 guy, man. He definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, 100, dude. We're just about to wrap it up. As Eba got to go to sleep.
Yeah, man. I'm a bum. I'm a bum.
No, that's good. It's all good. But yeah, for those of you guys who jumped in, enjoyed this. Thanks, Fire Boss. Yeah, we'll get you on, man. 100, if
Yeah.
you want to jump in on one, let me know. I'll try and do one earlier
Well,
so that if everybody wants to game.
100 will be able to do it because he has a nice time difference also. Like when
Oh,
if
that's
you
right.
hit me, if you started me with me at 12, for 100 it's like I think 9
Yeah,
because
nice.
it's a 3 hour difference. So he could do it if you ever invite him for
Well,
sure. Yeah.
even Jay stopped by, so if we can get Jay in, that would be cool.
Yeah. Right.
We're getting the
Right.
band back together.
Right. Right. And the brothers.
But yeah, yeah, so Sega Forever, you can check me out on YouTube. You can check me out on other social media, but like I said, the algorithm is not my friend. So, but yeah, but anyway, thanks you guys for dropping by and enjoy the show. Comment. I'll try and get back on the comments again. I think I missed a couple of them because just the way like the notifications are on my channel, man, it doesn't work all the time. Like I
Right.
said, I
Right.
have to go to your channel to watch to see some of your videos because I don't get them in
Right.
my notifications. So that's what I do. Like I'll go to 100 channel, your channel, Sega Mash channel, just in case.
Yeah. 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 We look out for each other. We have each other's back. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, like E-Rock, like I don't see the podcast. I don't see the podcast anymore, but I know they do it every Sunday night. So at least I know I'll check them out.
Right.
I don't know, man. YouTube's weird.
Sometimes I
So
don't even see hundreds. It just I see it when it's
yeah,
live, like when I'm scrolling, and I'll
yeah,
see the live feed, and I'll see it, and that's why I'm like, oh well, damn, because I would have jumped in. Because sometimes I see he only has like 3 people on. I'm like, I'll jump in, fuck it. But it's so hold on, pause it. It's so out of nowhere that I don't see the feed. By the time I see it, they're like halfway through the show or things like that.
yeah.
So, you know, but I told him I'm there for him whenever he wants me and needs me. I'm there. 100's my brother, man. I love him very much.
Yeah, yeah, 100. Definitely next the keyboard's gonna crash right now. So, I'll definitely hit you up next time. Sorry, I'm new to this. I got a new computer, but I don't even have my setup because I wanted to do a little bit more than what we've been doing. But yeah, so we're gonna call it a night, guys. Thank you guys for stopping by. Um,
Yeah, guys, thank you for stopping by for sure. Yeah.
so all in cast, we out.
Bye bye.